What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Senpai, and today we're going to be going over my thoughts on what could be updated on the restriction list, because this is, the point that it was planned, because like they said it a few months ago that there was going to be an update to the restriction list. I'm assuming it was going to be after all the season of WGPs and VMCs and whatnot. So I do believe that there's going to be some choice restrictions, some limits, some semi-limits, or maybe even some unrestrictions. So I'll give you guys a real quick rundown on my choices, real brief on my thoughts, and let's get into it. So let's go straight into the choice restrictions. Percival and Gurgwit. Gurgwit as a deck, since the release of VBT12, has been, for a lack of, at least just looking at the results, has been dominating. You have a couple of tournaments where it did not win first place. In those decks that did, it was Aquaforce, and then it was Gurgwit, and I think Vanquisher. Then there was another one where it was Golds, Narukami, Golds. And it's there's so many results where it's just Golds are literally best deck. And there's very few times it hasn't topped. So I believe that Gurgwit, Percival, those two are going to have to get split up. They're going in timeout from each other because, yes, Percival does cost a counterblast and you have to discard a card, but in return you get an Excel marker which washes the cost of discarding a card. You get Aglavale, which gets you another card to the board. So you get to go plus a soft one. So I don't think those two are going to be able to be used with Gurgwit anymore. Maybe Aglavale, but not Percival, because Percival is going to be the one that's making your first turn with 2 Excel markers and you draw 2 cards off of that, and it's no thanks. Anyway, so next, still with Golds, I think Wonder Ezel is going to be either you can't play him with Gurgwit, or he's going to be a 1-2 of, just to lower down its consistency, so that way it won't really too much matter. Almost the same way that they did with Zarzan in Premium, or with Shirayuki for Murakumo, because with Shirayuki being at 1, Murakumo players have to be a little bit more choicey when they decide to start to bring it out, and if it gets into the damage zone, it's oh well, too bad for them. So that's what I think is going to happen with Golds. Next, I believe the next problem deck, Luard. It is the general consistence, whatever the word is, consensus, there we go, across the Vanguard community, that Luard is a problem with gaining 3 markers. I, like the rest, Vanguard Insider, members from WCC, I believe that, Luard needs to be eroded to only be able to get 2 gifts. Well, I don't believe it should be. I don't believe it needs to be. I believe it should be. To only be able to get 2 gifts, because gaining 3 gifts, something that no clan currently has the ability to do. Even Bermuda Triangle, they're not that busted. They can choose 1 out of every 3 gifts every turn, but it's still not all 3 gifts. You shouldn't be able to get 3 Force 1 markers in 1 turn and pump your 5k grade 1 to 35k without a boost, and then you put a 20k booster behind it, and it's not really a great time for your opponent, especially when they're only on grade 2. You're not gonna. That's promoting fast play, and promoting fast play in the wrong way, in my opinion. So that's what I think is going to happen with Luard. Something else that could happen with Luard is, and I've seen this idea float around with a couple other people, and I just want to put this out there. Having the main come off of being choice restricted with Luard. But with that, they'll put the choice restriction on any card with Phantom Blaster in its name. So that way you cannot use the Superior Ride engine still. You can still have the main and you can turbo out everything, but I think the main was the right choice, because if you do that on turn 1, if you're going second as a Luard player, you can easily get a hard +2 to +3 depending on your opponent's board setup. Um, well, depending on your hand and your board setup, because your opponent will be at grade 1. You call out domain, rest it, get out an owl, soul blast 1. You draw a card, call Nightmare Painter, put a card back into your soul, call another owl from your hand, soul blast 1, draw another card, and you have a really good board. You have an 8K Vanguard who possibly just searched out for Luard. You have a 10K rear guard, and then you have a 10K column with the 2 owls in it. Really, really good, which is why I don't think that is going to happen. It just promotes too much degeneracy, worse than what Luard is right now. So that's why I think the only thing that's going to happen to Luard is just going to be the, if anything, errata it to get to only have 2 markers per turn, and that'll be pretty much it. Next, let's see. Maybe some of these cards could actually see some liberation in their in them, because it would actually promote diversity in clans. First, Tachikaze, Anger Blader, come back to 4. That's something that I would definitely like to see. I don't think Anger Blader was in any way, shape, or form a bad card. I don't think he was too overpowered. The thing that was overpowered was that grade 2. The one that, just sits on an Excel circle, gets all the gauge, gets plus 5k, you can't touch it, it has resist, it gets too big for you to even be able to try to hit it. So it's just like, with the exception of Narukami or Blade Master or any type of mass putting cards back, you're not going to be able to do anything about that grade 2. That grade 2 should be the one that's sitting at 1. Like, dealing with one of that, yeah, that's fine. But Anger Blader, nah. I think Anger Blader was completely fine. He should have stayed at 4. They should have choice restricted him or that grade 2. That's just what I believe. Not Nightmare, Anger Flanger for Granblue. My argument for that is: have you been at a locals lately? If if your state has been lucky enough to have locals, where every single round that you have more than one Granblue player, have you guys been going in a time every time? Because the Granblue player doesn't really have a good way to finish really quickly. Yeah, they can, do the whole 6 dragon turn, but what if you're going up against another protect deck, or a deck that just draws a lot, and then they have no other finishing power? Anger Flanger, or Flanger, whatever his name is, he could be that. Yeah, it's guard restriction, but it's not going to hurt too badly. I don't think so. It's not going to hurt too badly with Night Rose. You could do a double Anger Flanger, but probably just put him at 1 instead of just outright not having him there at all, because it'll give them something to speed up their games, because Bushiroad doesn't like lengthy games. And finally, and this is just a personal thing for me, Shirayuki to 4. And the reason why I want that is because they're coming out with the Shirayuki archetype, and the new extra booster for the clan selection. I mean, granted, it may not happen, but why would you release a whole archetype of, Shirayuki and not be able to use the original Shirayuki? Let's just say she only gets that one card that's in the set. So that other Shirayuki is going to have to do what current Shirayuki does, be on that level. Because Shirayuki, released 2 years ago, still is amazing. Like, Soul Blast 2 to either minus your opponent 5k, your opponent's front row. If they're not an Excel deck, they're front row by 5k or 10k. It's a really good card. But again, these are just my thoughts. What should be updated on the restriction list, and hopefully in 2 days' time, we'll actually get to see some of these things being implemented. And thank you for watching or listening whenever or wherever you are. And we'll see you guys next time.